This tank is the AMX-30. This is a French Tier 9 medium tank. The map is Malinovka. I am going to get 8,000 spotting damage in this game, but will it be enough to pull a win? We'll find out. Now, this is probably with the World of Tanks 1.0 map, so it's going to be a little bit of a different positioning than previous maps. Because it's a medium tank, it's a lot larger than a light tank, so therefore I'm not going to go as far at the beginning of the game because I can be spotted a lot more easily. And also there was an enemy light tank that we had to deal with. You'll notice that the enemy light tank did flee, which means it allows me to advance a little bit further, but I have to do so very cautiously because, like I said, I could easily get spotted. I do have binocs with this tank, which substantially increases my spotting range. And I do like the AMX-30. It's a wonderful tank, and as I've said, I like it a lot better than the Leopard, which is very similar to it. Because of the crew perk, I believe it's called designated target, if you point your gun towards an enemy tank, they stay spotted for 2 extra seconds. So I keep my gun pointed towards enemy tanks at all times. Now, if you look, there's a T-54 lightweight, which is nearby, so he could easily spot me, so I have to stay in this position. There's also a Jag Tiger directly in front of me. I have to wait until he's done with before I can advance, or I have to be smart enough to know when he's reversed on the hill before I can advance. Other than that, the other tanks are far enough away that I can advance at some point. So I'm going to sit here and wait for that T-54 lightweight to be taken out of the game. I was able to spot that T-54E1. The score is 0-0. We have a T-54 lightweight, which should have a good spotting range and good camo, but you notice he's in the G1 area, and he's not in a good position at all. He's not doing anything effectively for our team. So we've got a Waffenträger who just showed up, which is a new threat, and the T-54 lightweight. It looks like the enemy has taken the hill, and our team never made it to the hill. They're at the base of the hill. So now I'm actually in a pretty good spotting position, and it's actually good for me to remain here until these threats are taken out. And you don't want to move. You want to stay perfectly still if you have binocs, because if you move your hull, the binocs will reset, and you'll have to wait 2 or 3 seconds before they turn on again. So I don't want to have that gap. I only got 2,200 spotting damage at this point. You can see that we've advanced into the enemy base. We have an M46 Patton near the enemy base. If he were smart, he would line up to take shots on that T-54 lightweight. You can see that the enemy is also advancing into our sniping position in the C5 area. There's a lot of enemy tanks. We're on the red line in the north. The enemy is in a pretty strong position. We are encircling them, but they're not moving fast enough. The M46 Patton should have moved a lot faster to take up a better position, and same with the T-54 lightweight. The T-54 lightweight easily could have gone to the I-0 area and sniped the enemy from behind. Score is 2-4. I got 2,700 spotting damage. There's a button on the keyboard. It's the T button, and when you hit the T button, it targets an enemy tank and it makes him blink on the minimap. And I do that when I see an easy target for the SPG, or if I see an easy target that I want my allies to notice. An easy target will be something that's stationary, something that's out in the open. You can see that the enemy is advancing. It's 3 to 7. Our SPG should have gone into the south a long time ago. He's in the A2 area. Yeah, he waited too long to reposition. I'm up to 3,200 spotting damage. I was wondering why our Jagdtiger never took a shot at that Waffenträger. He should have had an open shot. If he didn't, he should have repositioned until he did. It should be within his range. It's poor positioning. You notice that the T-54 lightweight is still in a poor position. The M46 Patton took too long to reposition. And now the enemy is starting to approach our base. One person is pointing out that we had 3 tanks that could have gone onto the enemy cap. Getting onto the enemy cap is a good strategy because it splits the enemy team. Some of the enemy team has to withdraw to go defend the cap. Now it's 4 to 11. I got 4,800 spotting damage. 5,600 spotting damage. I'm doing the best that I can. I'm spotting really well for the team. But we don't have enough guns in the game. 6,200 spotting damage. It's better to hold my fire and let my allies do all the damage. That was 1,178 damage on that T-54. That's why it's very important to hold your fire, let your allies do the firing. Now from here I could easily reposition and take shots on those tanks behind me. That was 702 spotting, 702 damage on the Waffenträger, and we did kill that Waffenträger. So I'm up to 8,100 spotting damage. They are capping us. They are approaching my position. It's only a matter of time before they spot me. So even with 8,100 spotting damage, we weren't able to win the game. You can see he's pointing his gun towards me. Took too long to react. Stay low and run away. Unfortunately, I'm not going to get away. I wish I could. I should have kept on running. I wanted to take up another spotting position. Like I said, I should have kept on running. That was a big mistake that I made. And the base was captured. That was 8,100 spotting damage. This tank is the AMX 1390. This is a French Tier 9 light tank. The map is Malinovka. There were some changes. This is World of Tanks 1.0. There were some changes to the map, so we have to have learned some new techniques. But this is my first spotting run, looking for the best bush. I decided to go for this middle bush. Let's see if I make it. I am going to get 6,500 spotting damage. I actually think it's going to be more like 7,000 spotting damage. But notice I was able to make it to the bush. I'm completely concealed. I am worried about this tank spotting me. Oh yeah, I remember this game now. The ally got behind me and he got spotted. So because he got spotted, he gave up my position. I took a lot of incoming damage. More than I should have because of that tank. I had to literally push him out of the way. And he really hurt our team by doing what he did. I now only have, it looks like 3 hit points. So I got 3,200 spotting damage. He really hurt me by what he did. He almost killed me. And he would not have had any advantage by being in this spotting position. He's certainly not going to compete with me for range because I've got obviously the binocs and the situational awareness and the recon I got to add coded optics. He should have gone somewhere else. Now you notice I'm tracking an enemy tank, and the reason why is because if you have, I believe it's called designated target, you get an extra 2 seconds to keep that tank lit. However, I don't know if my allies will also keep him lit, or if it's just for me. It's not specified in the game, in the documentation. You can see that a lot of the enemy tanks have made their way towards the hill. At some point, this spotting position is no longer going to be good, and I'm going to have to leave. But you should make it a point to try and make it to this position. And you could probably do so with a lot of fast medium tanks also, and a lot of fast tank destroyers. You notice I got 4,000 spotting damage. It's more than the damage I could do in the game. I've decided that the targets have dried up, so I'm advancing. Turn the binocs on, find a spotting position, and turn those binocs on. I'm going to maneuver through those bushes. Spotted a new tank. 5,200 spotting damage. I got 1,100 spotting damage on that Rom Borsig. Now from here I could obviously advance forward a little bit more. Get those binocs turned on again. If I'm spotting tanks, I'm not going to move. I'm going to sit in this position until my allies take out those tanks. Score is 3-1. I got 5,188 spotting damage. Now, if you have 2 spotters, there's 3 spotting positions on this map. There's no reason why 2 of us should be in the same position. You have in the south where the E50 and the IS-3 is. You have where I am and the ELC, which is the middle of the map. And then you have the northern town, where a spotter can go through the town, and it has to be active spotting. You have to keep moving. You'll notice that the enemy has won the hill. The score is 6-1. It looks like I can advance from this position. I could probably advance without being spotted, but we're going to wait until this guy's taken care of first. Hopefully my team will take him out. At some point I'm going to advance. I'm going to stay low. And I'm going to look for another bush to spot in. The smart thing to do, there's a lot of tanks up on the hill. I want to go spot those tanks. There's like 5 or 6 tanks up on the hill, enemy tanks. So there's more hit points for me to spot up on that hill. It doesn't make sense for me to spot the tanks at the enemy base. He's moving behind a building, so once he's behind the building, I'm not going to be able to spot him anymore. So now at this point I decided to return back to the north. Like I said, there's a lot of hit points up there, a lot of enemy tanks up there. I'm going to go across the water. So I'm going to go spot for my team. On the mini-map, it will show you where the shallow water is. So you want to avoid going into the deep water, especially if you have a light tank. Now the question is, where do you get a good spotting position? The ideal position to be is where the VK4502 is. From there I'll get a clear line of sight up on the hill. Now, this is assuming that the enemy tanks are planning to come down the hill. It's possible that they might be returning to their base. We don't know it at this time. So I'm already starting to spot for the hill. We got 6,400 spotting damage. I believe that there's going to be an extra 500 spotting damage that's going to be added on in the post-game stats, which means that my allies hit tanks that were unspotted. Score is 9-3. Still haven't fired my gun. I've done more spotting damage than I could possibly do by firing my gun, so it's been well worth it. Now, you notice that T-32 is an easy target for me. I could easily get behind him and fire my gun into his rear. Unfortunately, these tanks don't have a lot of rounds anymore since they were nerfed. Now that I'm spotted, going in, I decided to back off because the E-50 was a threat. If the E-50 had his gun pointed the other way, I would have gone in after that T-32. Score is 10-4. You got to keep them spotted because you want to know where they're going at all times. Now look at that T-32. His gun is pointed away from me. I could easily go kill him off right now. The T-32 is still an easy target for me. Both of them have their guns pointed away from me. And all I got to do is go to the left, and they won't be able to shoot back at me. And that's the game. Base was captured. This tank is the AMX 13105. This is a French Tier 10 light tank. The map is Malinovka in encounter mode. I am working on a mission, which is LT-15, the Aggressive Recon Specialist, and I'm going to complete this mission in this game. I'm going to get 6,300 spotting damage plus additional damage. So the first thing that I did was I tried to spot some enemy tanks, which I obviously did. Unfortunately, I got spotted, so I have to retreat, and I'm trying to weave in between the buildings on my way back, trying to keep buildings behind me as much as possible. I did take a hit for 764 damage, but that's okay because I'm going to do very well in this game. And I've already gotten 1,600 damage on my first pass. So there's many different ways, you know, there's many different ways to approach this. I knew that ROM Panzerwagon was spotting me. So I knew that I was going to have a little bit of trouble doing a spotting run. So that's why I decided to sit in this position. And I also came out to this side to stay far away from him. So now that I think it's safe, I'm probably going to advance soon, unless I could do some damage to this guy. I'm up to 2,600 spotting damage. I had a hit on an Object 277 for 1,058 damage, which was a huge asset in this game. So obviously you can see I'm advancing in the lower area. And I'm notifying my allies the target that I'm planning to light up, which is the E0 area. Now, one thing you're going to notice, there's different ways to get out of, to return and retreat from spotting. And one way is to head in the direction that I'm heading. And the reason why it's good is because of the slope of the land, it's very difficult for the enemy team to hit you. If you go more on this side, on the other side of the houses, it's easier for enemy tanks to hit you. So it can be very safe to go this way, just stay low. And always stay surrounded by solid objects as much as possible. Score's 2-1. I'm up to 3,100 spotting damage, including some on that Rheinmetall Panzer wagon. I have the feeling he's going to be out of the game soon. Oh, he's lucky. Excuse me. It's too bad that this tank only has 3 rounds in it. I believe it used to have 4 rounds, but they nerfed it because they didn't want light tank players to be able to snipe. So they took away some of its firing capabilities. And they probably reduced its penetration as well. I'm really against making those types of changes to the game. People should be allowed to play tanks whatever the way they want to. Okay, so I'm up to 3,200 spotting damage. I'd love to shoot at those tanks. A lot of enemy tanks here. I once had a game where I spotted everybody on the enemy team. I think it was 14 tanks. And I was so close to them that the enemy team was spotted the whole game, and they were pinned down and they couldn't move, and we won like 15-0. And it was on Sand River. The video is on my my website. It was a great game. Spotting can give you a huge advantage in the game. So now one of the things that I'm noticing is that those tanks are being hit and I'm not getting spotting damage for them. Obviously it's because I'm not spotting them, but it defeats the purpose of me trying to complete this mission. I only need one more mission to win an Object 260. I have to complete MT-15 and then I'm done. So one of the concerns that I had was that Object 268 was right in front of me, but I wasn't spotting him. Now I am. Luckily, everything worked out, but there was a little gap of time I was concerned. He just took a hit, and I did not get any spotting damage from it. He just took another hit, and I did not get spotting damage from it. Could hit him right in the rear. Okay, so now I'm getting the spotting damage on that tank. Now remember, there's an enemy tank right in front of me, which is a T-110E3. He disappeared for a moment, but now he's back. I could easily take him out of the game. And you notice he disappeared again. I'm up to 4,100 spotting damage. Now would be a great time to fire. And he's out of the game. Up to 4,400 spotting damage, 4,700 combined. So now we only got 5 tanks left in the game. And I was concerned here. I thought that maybe I wasn't going to make it. So I had to rush to get as much damage as I could. I'm up to 5,100 combined. I need 8,000. Too slow to turn around. Should have turned around a lot faster. I might have been able... Oh, I wasn't reloaded. Up to 5,500. I'm up to 5,900. Score is 12-9. I got 4,400 spotting damage. I'm going to get 6,300 total, so there's a bit more yet to come. And you'll notice I'm repositioning so I can hit that Type 5 heavy. And surely we're going to win this game. That was an amazing camera angle right there. Ouch. Okay, so that's the end of the game for me. The score is 13-10. The in-game stats currently show 2,100 damage, 5,200 spotting damage, 7,400 combined, but I did pull in an extra 1,100 spotting damage, so I actually got up to 8,500 combined, which allowed me to complete the mission, LT-15, the Aggressive Recon Specialist. So it is possible to do it in encounter mode. You might think you have to be able to passively scout on this map, but it's not true. I was able to do it by actively scouting. If you have any questions or comments, please post below. This tank is the E-25. This is a German Tier 7 tank destroyer. The map is Malinovka. This is my best map for spotting. I get more spotting damage on this map than any other map in the game, number 2 Prokhorovka. Now, since this is a 1.0 map, there's a new position that I use, which is a little bush over here on this little hill. So I head straight for this hill. It looks like I went a little too far. But I did not get spotted. I spotted a lot of enemy tanks. And if you look at my spotting range, it's not... I don't have a full spotting range, but I'm going to get 5,300 spotting damage in this game. And this is with coded optics, probably with the recon and situational awareness, without the binocs. Spotted a lot of tanks, already up to 1,500 spotting damage. Now, contrary to what other people believe, there's a belief that you shouldn't rush out and spot enemy tanks because then your allies will never make it to the hill, but it's a false belief. You have to follow a certain procedure when you're a spotter. When you come out here and you spot all these tanks, you have to make the decision, are you going to remain here and try to spot the tanks at the base, or are you going to go to a secondary position to spot the tanks as they approach the hill? If you have 2 spotters on your team, which we appear to not have, then you would have one in this position and you'd have another one spotting the approach to the hill. Because I have lots of targets here, I'm going to remain here. As long as there's targets here, I'm going to remain here and spot them. I'm up to 3,140 spotting damage in the first 2 minutes of the game. 3,600 spot damage. There's a lot of tanks within my spotting range right now. So the smart thing to do is to just sit here and sit it out and let your tanks do as much damage as they can. Soften up the enemy team. Up to 4,300 spot damage. You can see that my team is starting to approach the hill. We've got 3 tanks, a Tiger, a Low, and a Challenger. We've got the SU-100, which is doing some proximity spotting. I'm up to 4,600 spotting damage. We still have tanks within our range. There's no reason to move. We sit here until those tanks are dead. So there's a SU-122-44 at the base that I'm concerned with. He is right over there. I don't know if I'm spotting him or not. Now he's out of the game. So now I'm at the point where it's time for me to advance and find a new position. Stay low when you want to remain hidden, and go up higher when you want to spot. Now remember that I don't have the greatest spotting range, so if one of my allies is in front of me, I'm no longer spotting for the team. One of the things that's interesting about this game, you'll notice that there's a Progetto 46. This was well before the tank was released, so one of the players on my team had some form of an advanced version before the tank was for sale and before people were able to get it in the event. It's the first time that I had seen it in game. So you can see that most of the enemy tanks are in the north, so I'm going to head north to help spot for my team. I'm not going to fire my gun if I'm out in the open, unless it's a kill shot. You'll notice that now he's behind a bush, so I can fire at him without him spotting me, but that doesn't mean that one of his allies won't be able to spot at me. Need to get into a better position to spot those tanks. Scores 10-5. Now, obviously, I'm going to reverse in order to defend myself. And that's the game for me. So the score at this point is 10-6. I did 259 damage, and I did 5,154 spotting damage. This was with an E25. This tank is the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen. This is a German Tier 10 light tank. The map is Malinovka. I am going to get 5,100 spotting damage in this game. As you can see, I'm already spotting tanks. That's looks like 8 tanks spotted. One of the issues, the game designers want corridor maps. They're against spotting. So they made it so that it's more difficult for your allies to hit enemy tanks at the start of this map. They moved the tanks further apart. So even if you go and spot them, your allies won't be able to shoot at them. And they're really ruining the game because if you think about it, you have your penetration of your gun, the amount of damage you do, your spotting, your armor, all those different things. The armor ends up being the most important. That's the one thing that keeps you in the game. And I will explain. Having a high penetration allows you to kill enemy tanks and win games. However, your allies, having the highest penetration does not make it so that you kill every enemy tank, because your allies are also going to be killing enemy tanks. So having high penetration gives you an advantage, but only so far. But having the strongest armor can make you impenetrable in a game. I need to pause for a second. Okay, I'm back. So the point that I'm making is I sat and I reviewed all of the characteristics that a tank could have, and I determined that having strong armor is the most important in a game because it keeps you alive and it does the most to help you win the game. Okay, so now after I did my initial spotting run, I knew that I might not get a lot of spotting damage at that position. So what I decided to do was a follow-up spotting run. On the follow-up spotting run, at the point that I'm at right now, I got 2,000 spotting damage. Most of the damage was on a Centurion Action X. So I'm going in for another spotting run. You don't want to go through the buildings on your way in as much as possible. You want to stay exposed, and then you want to ride through the buildings on your way back when you're retreating. And you want to use the buildings for cover. You'll notice that I'm going up a little bit higher because I wanted to be able to spot some tanks that I couldn't normally see. And I decided to make my way towards the lower level over here instead of driving through the buildings. And part of it is, if you look at the mini-map, it's better for me to drive near the cliff based on the positioning of the enemy tanks as opposed to driving through the buildings. So you do want to take that into account when you do spotting runs. So one of the issues we have is that a lot of the tanks are actually spotted. There's not a lot of tanks that need to be spotted. So now I have to come up with a new tactic. The score is 2-0. I'm already up to 4,000 spotting damage. I took a lot of damage on the Grill 15. Oh, they spotted me. So the Grill 15 was around 1,500 spotting damage, and the Centurion Action X was apparently taken out of the game. So I made a mistake where it looks like I went into a spotting bush while I was still spotted, and you don't want to do that. What you want to do is go into a safe position like where I was, count to 10 seconds, and then go up into the spotting bush. I am going to get more spotting damage in this game. So now we have a situation where there's a tank there that's got a lot of hit points, but do we have the snipers in positions to hit him, and do they have guns that can damage him? You can see that there's some incoming fire. There's an E100 who can definitely do it, and there's a Leopard 1 who might not have the ability to do a lot of damage to that tank. At the base, there's an STRV who could hit him, and a T110E4, but because he's hiding behind that rock, they're not going to be able to hit him. The tanks that are up on the hill, I can't really get a lot of benefit from spotting them. Maybe that E100 I can spot, but most of the tanks up on the hill, there's little that I can do unless I get behind them and shoot them on the rear flank. So I am concerned about that AMX 13105. I don't know where he is right now. There's a chance he's still in the... Oh, okay, I remember this game. I'm working on a mission to get 8,000 spotting damage, and I was... Here, okay, so here's what you should do, and here's what I did do. You look in front of me, there's 3,000 hit points of damage. I've already got 4,700. If I get that remaining 3,000 hit points of damage, I'll get my 8,000, and I'll probably complete the mission. I'm not going to complete the mission in this game. I did complete the mission already in another replay, which you may have already seen. So I know that if you look at the minimap, these two tanks in front of me are at the edge of my spotting range. And they're in a well-defended position. So I knew that there were a few problems here. The problems are that my allies can't really hit them easily because of the rock that they're hiding behind. Number two, they could easily become unspotted, and we don't want that to happen. I want my allies to chase after those targets. If they become unspotted, my allies might give up and focus their attention somewhere else. So I thought I got to get a little bit closer. And I don't know, let's see when, I'm definitely going to move to a new position. Let's see when I do it. And we'll find out what I did wrong. I'm up to 4,700 spotting damage. You'll see that the Badger disappeared. And I don't want tanks to disappear. I want them to stay spotted. Oh, there's another tank. Okay, so those three tanks, that's 5,000 spotting damage combined. And they're moving. So I felt the need to move to a closer position. But I got spotted, and that's where the problem comes in. And we lost one of our snipers. So the AMX, he was on the lower level. It looks like he never left that position. It was not wise for him to stay there. It was kind of dumb for him to stay there. He's not very useful in the game by staying in that position because, well, he doesn't know that. That's why you need to count your tanks. So I decided to make another effort. All these tanks, again, are at the edge of my spotting range. There's about 5,000 hit points of damage out there. I'm up to 5,100. I got spotted, and I was taken out of the game. And what I did not understand is how the hell did I get spotted in that bush? It looks like maybe I had gone a little bit too far forward. One of the problems that I have when I play is that you can stay behind the bush and still spot through the bush, and I never do it. I always go a little bit too far, so it was a mistake for me. I believe that the AMX 13105 is move to a new position where he was able to find me. And that's why I screwed up. Okay, so let's move on to the next video. The score is 9-5. I got 5,100 spotting damage. This tank is the AMX 1357 GF. It's a French Tier 7 light tank. It's also a premium tank, and the map is Malinovka. I'm going to get 4,500 spotting damage. Now, the technique I use on this map is to rush across the field, spot as many tanks as I can, and hide in a bush somewhere. You can see that I was spotted. You just return back, get over that hill. They won't be able to hit you in this position. However, the problem is it might be a little bit difficult to retake an advanced position, especially because there's an enemy AMX 1357 in front of me. Unfortunately, the web developers have changed this map to make it harder to spot. So there's fewer spotting options. You used to be able to make it midfield. There were good spotting positions. You could spot, do a lot of damage early in the game, but they moved some of the bushes back or made some of the bushes smaller so that it was more difficult to accomplish that. This is one of my favorite tanks to play. I've already gotten 1,000 spotting damage. I like the fact that it has a rapid fire gun. It's very maneuverable, somewhat small. I just wish it were tier 10. It has a good velocity for the ammunition, which means that when you fire the gun, the ammunition is going to get there a lot faster. Now, if you look at the minimap, there's only one tank within my spotting range, which is a Scorpion G, which means that it's pretty safe for me to advance to a bush that's closer to those tanks. So as you can see, I've noticed that there's a few tanks in my spotting range, so I'm advancing. I'm going to turn on those binocs, see what it finds. Every time that tank shows up over there, he's going to get nailed by my allies. So you can see I'm going to another bush, and then I'm going to turn the binocs on. You don't want to move too much. You want to try and get into position as quickly as possible so that your binocs turn on as quickly as possible. I'm going to become deadlier and deadlier for that Scorpion G. I could probably take up a closer position because the Scorpion G is probably on the other side of the hill, or possibly he left. If he's probably not in those bushes, I probably would have spotted him. If you want to know when to fire your gun, the bullet is going to land, the ammunition is going to land within that circle. So as the circle grows smaller, once the circle encompasses the tank, that's when you fire your gun. That's assuming that you don't care which part of the tank it hits. You don't have to wait for the circle to become as small as possible. I'm still going to wait for my binocs to turn on. Got more bushes I can advance into. I got good support, got a lot of tanks behind me. You can see that MT-25 never spotted me, although I more than likely spotted him. When you play, you want to learn how to spot first and add sniping later on once you've mastered spotting. And with the sniping, you have to have an exit plan. You have to know where you're going to go if you get spotted while you're sniping. I was a little slow to find a place to hide. Up to 1,500 spotting damage and 500 damage. The score is 5-2. You can see that we're going to win this game. We've got the enemy pretty much cornered. We've got them where we want them. We've got them surrounded fairly well. The enemy has few options. The only thing they can do is wait for us to approach them.
Penetration. Enemy armor is damaged. Enemy vehicle destroyed.
Now, one thing I can do, you see there's a lot of water in front of me. Being in the water is a safe place to be because it's the lowest part of the map. So I could easily advance through the water, go all the way to the edge of the water, and then hide on the slope.
Penetration. Enemy armor is damaged.
I got 2,200 up to 2,259 spotting damage now. You want to stay as low as possible in the water. And then find a bush. For example, there's one on the left. Find a bush to roll into. You can see I got a good patch of bushes over here. All those tanks are probably against the red line. I've only got 2 shots loaded. I don't like to use the APCR, which is why I don't have them loaded. I should have reloaded with the APCR. I didn't realize, wasn't properly anticipating all the tanks I would have been able to shoot. Got 3,300 spotting damage. Obviously, I want to spot that tank as quickly as possible. Move perpendicularly to him to make it harder for him to shoot at me. And that's the game. I got 1,000 damage, 4,556 spotting damage, and 1 kill. This tank is a T-54 lightweight. This is a Russian Tier 9 light tank, and the map is Malinovka. I am going to get 4,400 spotting damage in this game, and I'm going to get 4 kills. Now, as you can see, I'm going to a certain position here where I like to spot from. And normally, you do want to move as close to that, close to the left as possible, which is actually eastward, because the tanks that go up into that sniping ridge, you want to be able to spot them. So at some point, you're going to have to move. And the reason why I don't do it right at the beginning is because I don't want to get spotted. I want to make sure I get a lot of spotting damage in before I make that final move. But at some point, I'll probably move my tank forward. I don't know why I just moved it backwards. Maybe I was worried I might get spotted by the Foch. I didn't count how many tanks I spotted, but as you can see, I've gotten spotting damage on 2 different tanks so far. And it's 609 spotting damage. I've played this position quite a bit. There's good things about this position. First of all, you're going to prevent the enemy team from advancing along the south. If they try to advance, they're going to fail. And second of all, you can do a lot of spotting from here, but you're not going to get quite everything. You're going to be able to get a couple thousand, that's for sure. And you have to know when are you going to advance. At some point, you're going to want to advance to the enemy base. When you advance to the enemy base, you might have to fight. The other good thing about this position is you do prevent tanks like that Foch B from taking up a sniping position up on that ridge. And not only do you prevent them from taking a sniping position, but you prevent them from spotting from that ridge. And as you can see from the beginning of the game, there was a tank that tried, it was an ELC even 90 who tried to take up a spotting position, but I got here first. So he was unable to take up that spotting position in that bush, which helps me out a lot and helps my team out a lot. One thing that's going to happen is tanks like that T-32, they're just going to stay there and hide the whole game. They're pinned down, and they're not going to come out. They know that if they move, they're going to get spotted, and they've got no targets to shoot at. So they're going to sit there. We're going to have to force them out later in the game. You can see he's already spotted. He tried to move, and he already got spotted. He's never going to be able to get out of that position. What he doesn't understand is that he could sneak away if he really wanted to. So now you can see I repositioned so I could get closer to where the Foch is. And the reason why was because I wasn't spotting the Foch. I wanted to put him within my range so I could respot him. It's possible that I spotted him when the binocs turned on. I'm not sure. If you want to confirm that, you can rewind the video and check to see when the binocs came on to verify if that's when the Foch was spotted. And he's out of the game. So we've got at least 3 tanks at the enemy base. The M4A1 Revolorize, the J Panther II, and the T-32. Obviously, the M4A1 is retreating. He's not doing it the safest way. He should have done it more along the water. Oh, there's an E100. That's interesting. I guess the T-62 must have spotted him. Scores 3-2. I got 2,500 spot damage. I'm going to speed up the game a little bit. Got another hit on that T-32. So the E100 was hit by artillery. Scores 6-4. I got 2,900 spotting damage. Very boring, as you can see. Let's speed it up a little more. Score 7-6. What's painful about this type of thing is I want to help out my team in the north, but I really can't. I actually could leave this position. If I wanted to, I would just turn around, head back to my base, and I'd probably make it without being spotted. If I set up my tank in the right position, I'd probably be able to snipe against that tank also. It looks like that's what I'm trying to do. Set up a sniping position. Yeah, he's out of the game. Scores 9-7. T-32 is still in the same position. So I finally decided to advance. The reason why is because I have support from the STRV and the enemy does not have a tank there. You'll notice that if you're going to run through the enemy base, you want to keep on heading all the way to the back as much as you can. Killed the T-32. Don't stick around. Don't cross over and then stick around. Cross over and get as far behind the enemy as possible. So if they turn their guns around, they can't point their guns at 2 different tanks. So he's going to have to point his gun either towards my allies or towards me. He can't choose both. You can see that he did not point his tank in my direction. He chose to ignore me. There's still a bit more spotting to do. Okay, so I got 3 kills. I'm up to 1,000 damage, and I still have 2,900 spotting damage. That's 4 kills. And the score is 14-7. We got one final tank that's all the way up at the top there. So the in-game is reporting 2,900 spotting damage, but in the after-game it said 4,400 spotting damage. And obviously I got 4 kills. Let's see what happens with this last tank. I'm going to speed up. That would be amazing if I actually was able to spot him at the end here. Okay. So that's going to be the game. And that's it. This tank is the AMX 1390. This is a French Tier 9 light tank. The map is Malinovka. If you watch my games, you'll know that I like to make a run out into the field. However, it's less effective now because the number of bushes that you can head for has been reduced, and the spawn points have been moved, so that you have to go further in order to spot the enemy tanks. So because I was spotted, I'm taking my time moving into the spotting position. This is a very powerful position, even though it's not as deep as I like it to be. I prefer to be in this bush over here, but it's very difficult to get there nowadays, especially with the higher tiers. Everyone has a greater spotting range. They're going to see you coming. In a lower tier like tier 6 or 7, it's going to be a lot easier to get there. But what I do is I keep in mind, maybe at a later point I'll try and make a run for that bush. There used to be a bush over here where this little mound is, but now they've shrunk it so that it's too small to be used. So we can't do the effective spotting on this map that we used to be able to do. But you will notice that there's still a lot of enemy tanks that are within my spotting range. And we still don't know where that T-54 lightweight is. Chances are he's in a bush in front of me. So some people might ask, what do you do if the spotting dries up? One of the things you can do is you could head out this way, go through the town, and you could spot the tanks as they approach the hill. But we still have a lot of tanks that are near the base, so I don't think the enemy is going to go to the hill. I'm up to 2,500 spotting damage. $3,700 spotting damage. There's too many enemy tanks near their base. We're going to probably win the hill. We had that KV-13 went out in the open. We had a lot of guns that could have taken him out. Unfortunately, they failed to do so. So I decided to move, possibly because I saw the T-54 leave. And because I was spotted, I'm going to hide in this little ridge area over here where hopefully nobody can hit me. So it looks like the enemy did go to the hill. There's sufficient enemy heavy tanks at the hill that they may win the hill. I'm going to move up into a closer spotting position. The problem with this spotting position is that it's too low, and because it's too low, it's going to be difficult to spot the enemy tanks. Got to move to that safe position. Now my turret is jammed, and that's the type of repair you want to make sure you're safe first before you worry about repairs. So get into a safe position first. And this is one of the safe positions. Unfortunately, I was taken out of the game. So let's see if there's an alternative position. I could have moved behind this rock right over here. In fact, it may have been safer if I went behind that rock. But that's, you learn, you live, you learn. Excuse me. Okay, so that's the game for me. Let's move on to the next. This tank is the E-25. This is a German Tier 7 tank destroyer, and the map is Malinovka. I'm going to get 4,100 spotting damage in this game. Now, one of the things you're going to notice, if you look at the mini-map, I don't have the full spotting range on this tank, and I'm doing my standard maneuver, which is to head out to this little area over here, spot as much as I can, then go down into the dip. I wasn't spotted. So this way, if I get spotted, I have an escape route. So I decided to start out in this little bush over here. It's possible that I might be able to sit here for some time, but I really want a closer position. I want to be able to spot everybody on the enemy team as well as possible. And one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to be watching that Hellcat and any other tanks that go up into that ridge over there to make sure that there's no one there. We want to make sure that they don't have spotting ability. If they don't have spotting ability, then it's safer for me to move around the map. So you can see that IKV is almost taken out of the game. And yeah, that took him out of the game. Okay, so I already got 1,368 spotting damage. And there's no way to know for sure if there's someone there. You have to take a guess at it. We got this T-50-2 heading over there, and he's going to pretty much verify whether or not there's somebody hiding there. So it looks like there's no enemy tanks there spotting, so I can move closer. And that T-50-2 was killed by the enemy SPG. You can see that a tree fell down in the middle of the screen, so there is another tank out there. I got 2,100 spotting damage so far. There goes another tank, 2,600 spotting damage. So that was a couple of tanks that died because of my spotting. We do have enemy tanks that are nearby, so I do have to be careful. I know I could easily get spotted. And he's out of the game. So I was able to cause another tank to die. I'm up to 3,197 spotting damage. And one of the things that you can see is that the E-25 is a good tank for spotting with. It has a low profile. It has pretty good camo. It's definitely got good speed. And the gun's pretty good. The gun is good against many tanks, especially if you hit them on the side or the rear. Score 6-1. A lot of those kills were because of me. So right now I can't really move. I have to wait for my allies. Well, obviously I could move, but the smart thing is for me to stay where I am and let my allies do as much damage and killing as they can. The score is 8-3. I want to continue to spot for my team. It looked like the E-25 had moved enough far away that I could advance a little bit more, and now he's out of the game. Very easy to snipe on that tank. And I wasn't spotted. Score is 10-5. Obviously, there's some tanks here I could snipe at. I'm up to 3,476 spotting damage and 324 damage. When people ping the mini-map to signify where an enemy tank might be, they're not always correct. You know, sometimes people ping the mini-map because they want the tank to be there, but not because they know that a tank is there. I got 462 damage, 3698 spotting damage, and there's only one tank left in the game. Okay, that's the game. So again, I got 4,100 spotting damage. I got around 500 damage and 1 kill. This tank is the AMX 13105. This is a French Tier 10 light tank. The map is Malinovka. I am going to get 4,000 spotting damage in this game. There are people who think that Prokhorovka does more spotting damage, but for me, that's not the case. For me, I get more spotting damage on Malinovka. I use the World of Tanks replay analyzer, and I get more spotting damage on this map. Now you'll notice I came to this position, this row of bushes over here. It's going to prevent the team from advancing in the south. We're going to completely control the south. They're never going to be able to advance as long as I'm here. Any enemy tanks that remain at the base area are going to get spotted. They're going to get taken out of the game. And any enemy light tanks that try to remain near the base are going to get spotted. Plus, there is a sniping ridge, which is in the F7 area. That ridge right there, we're going to be able to spot tanks that show up on that ridge also. So we control a large portion of enemy territory, with the exception of the northeast, where everyone goes to brawl. We've already got 682 spotting damage in this game. There's another 173. So he's going to figure out at some point that he can't do anything. He can't advance. And really, if you're in that situation, I mean, the IS-7's choice is either to defend the position or to retreat. And if he defends the position, it's not going to do him any good because he's not going to spot any enemy tanks. So really, his best option is to retreat and go fight somewhere else. Now the question is, are there other tanks on the enemy team that are at the base area? Usually there is. And if you watch these videos, I had a game recently where there was an E100 that was literally right behind that building, that bush right there, who was there for a large portion of the game and wasn't spotted until many minutes had gone by. So some tanks are going to be able to hide well. You see that the Object 140 is trying to advance. Looks like he was able to make it, but he's probably going to get spotted as he moves up into the next position. And from this position where I am, I can shoot at him if I want to, but I run the risk of being spotted, so I'm going to have to hold my fire. Now, when you play in this position, one of the things you have to be aware of is you have to know when to leave this position. You have to keep... Okay, so there's an example. The Object 268 was spotted at the enemy base more than 3 minutes into the game. So you have to keep an eye on where the heavy tanks are in the northeast, and you have to know when that flank falls, because when that flank falls, you got to leave this position. And the way you leave this position is very simple. You just head in that direction towards your base, and if you get spotted, stay in the low area, or you could head that way. You could dive into the water if you get spotted, but I never get spotted, so not something that I need to worry about. But keep your eye on, it looks like we're winning in the northeast. Score's 4-0. I'm up to 2,000 spotting damage. So if you look on the mini-map and you see how we're winning and we're advancing, that tells me that what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to stay here and I'm going to go back behind the enemy base at some point. I'm sure I could easily snipe at those tanks. But I am getting what appears to be the full spotting damage on those tanks. I got 675 spot damage on that Object 430U. You'll notice that I'm moving forward a little bit in order to extend my range. Score 7-1. So I made the decision to start advancing onto the enemy base. Maybe snipe at those tanks. Once they get outside of spotting range, I'll start sniping at them. Let's see if the IS-7 takes heavy fire. It looks like he didn't. Well, it looks like he did. So the IS-7 got hit for around 600 damage, and I got half of that as spotting damage. Ah, that sucks. Okay, so I didn't get any kills. The after-game results said that I did 4,000 spotting damage, and I did 372 damage on my own. The score is 12-3. We're surely going to win this game. Let's move on to the next video.